Have you ever been somewhere, maybe just uh, walking down the street or visiting a friend's place, and
Yeah.
suddenly your chest tightens up?
That familiar feeling.
Yeah, that shortness of breath starts creeping in, and you realize, hang on, this isn't something I did. It's that smell, the faint scent of someone else's cigarette smoke.
Hmm. Yeah, it happens.
Well, welcome everyone to Asthma Friend. We're your companion for clearer breathing.
And here at Asthma Friend, our whole goal is really to empower you, give you the knowledge, the community support, everything you need to manage your asthma effectively.
Exactly. And today, we're doing a deep dive into something super critical for anyone living with asthma. We're talking about the hidden dangers of smoke.
Right, not just the obvious smoke cloud, but the stuff that lingers even when no one's actively smoking near you.
We'll be exploring passive smoke, sure, but also something maybe less known, third-hand smoke. We want to look at how these really impact your asthma.
And crucially, what you can actually do about it. Practical steps.
Definitely. We've pulled together information from our Asthma Friend blog posts on these topics, aiming to give you some clear, actionable insights.
Okay, so let's get right into it. Third-hand smoke. It sounds a bit mysterious, maybe.
It does a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
What exactly is it?
So it's not the smoke you actually see floating in the air. It's the invisible, kind of sticky, toxic residue that tobacco leaves behind.
Left behind. On what?
On basically everything. Think of it like a toxic dust that just coats surfaces. Your furniture, your clothes, carpets, walls, even things like a child's toys.
Wow. So it just hangs around.
It does. And what's kind of worrying is that these chemicals, they don't just sit there doing nothing. They can actually react with other stuff in the air indoors, common pollutants.
Yeah, and create new problems.
Yeah, it creates new harmful compounds. So the air quality can actually get worse over time just from this old residue.
Okay, so for someone listening with asthma, why is this specific residue such a big deal?
Well, here's the thing. Even what seems like a really tiny amount, just trace exposure, it can be a major trigger.
Triggering what exactly? Like
Yeah.
the usual symptoms.
Yep. It can inflame your airways, which leads to more wheezing, that horrible breathlessness feeling. It can also sort of lower your overall lung function over time.
And make you more sensitive to other things too.
Exactly. Makes your lungs more reactive, more easily triggered by dust, pollen, whatever your usual triggers are.
That sounds particularly concerning for kids with asthma.
Oh, definitely. It's especially dangerous for children. Think about it. Kids breathe faster than adults, right? So they inhale more air and more of these pollutants relative to their little body size.
They're always on the floor, touching things.
Precisely. They spend so much time crawling on floors, playing with toys, touching furniture, sometimes putting things in their mouth. All those places where this toxic residue settles.
Right. So even if someone, say, smokes outside,
Hmm.
thinking they're being careful.
Mm-hmm. That's a really important point. Even if they always go outside, they can carry that residue back in. It clings to their clothes, their hair, their skin.
So they walk back inside and unknowingly bring those triggers in with them.
Exactly. And that invisible transfer can still be enough to affect someone with sensitive airways, someone with asthma who's inside.
It really broadens the scope of where the danger might be, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Which, well, leads us naturally into a topic that can be sensitive, setting boundaries.
Talking to smokers in your life,
Hmm.
family, friends, about protecting your breathing space.
It can feel awkward.
Definitely. But I think it's so important to remember, and we really want to stress this, as my friend, setting these boundaries isn't you being difficult or, selfish.
Not at all.
It's literally about protecting your health.
Yeah.
It's about your fundamental right to breathe without struggling.
Absolutely. And this comes up a lot, especially in family settings, maybe where smoking indoors used to be common, or maybe people just don't fully grasp this idea of residue on clothes being a trigger.
Yeah, it can be tough, can't it? Especially with close family. You don't want to offend anyone or make them feel judged.
Right. But maybe try reframing it in your head and in the conversation. It's not about attacking their habit. It's about your physical reaction. You're the one dealing with the coughing, the chest tightness, maybe even needing your rescue inhaler.
Focusing on the impact on your health.
Exactly. It's about protecting your lungs or your child's lungs.
So, okay, how do you actually start that conversation? It needs to be gentle, but clear.
Yeah, finding the right words is key. At Asthma Friend, we know this is delicate, so here are a few phrases you could maybe adapt.
Okay, like what?
You could try something like, I know you care about me, or I know you care about child's name, and our asthma is just really sensitive to smoke, even the smell that lingers. Could we please make sure there's no smoking inside the house when we visit?
That sounds reasonable, focusing on the sensitivity.
Or maybe my asthma's been flaring up quite a bit lately, and my doctor mentioned even the smoke smell on clothes can be a trigger. Would you mind maybe changing your shirt after you smoke before we hang out?
Asking for specific action? That's helpful.
Another angle could be about shared spaces, like, for my health, could we maybe keep the balcony or the patio a smoke-free zone, at least while I'm here?
It's not asking them to quit just to manage where the smoke and the residue goes.
Precisely. You could even say, I'm not asking you to stop smoking. I'm just asking if we can keep the smoke and that lingering smell away from the areas we share because it really affects my breathing.
These seem like good starting points. What about specific boundaries for, say, your own home if you live with a smoker?
Yeah, if it's your home, you can be clearer. Strict no smoking zones inside, definitely. No exceptions. Maybe ask them to use one specific outdoor spot well away from doors and windows.
And the clothes thing again.
Yes, politely requesting they change clothes or at least wash their hands thoroughly after smoking, especially before interacting with kids who have asthma. It sounds like a lot, maybe, but remember.
Even that quick cigarette outside.
Right, even that can leave enough residue on their clothes to potentially trigger an asthma attack for someone really sensitive.
It's all about reducing that exposure. We actually dig into more strategies for this on the Asthma Friend blog. There's a post called Setting Boundaries with Smokers in the Family. The link will be in our show notes.
Definitely worth checking out if this is something you're navigating.
Okay, so boundaries are one piece.
Yeah.
Let's talk about making your home environment itself safer. Your home should feel like a haven, right?
Absolutely. A true sanctuary, especially if you or your children have asthma. A place you can relax and breathe easily.
So creating a completely tobacco-free home seems like a really vital step.
It is. Non-negotiable, really. And that means absolutely no smoking indoors. Ever. Not even leaning out a window.
Because the smoke drifts back in.
And the residue settles. So a firm rule. No smoking inside the house and no smoking in the car either, if possible.
What about practical steps to deal with potential residue that might already be there or comes in inadvertently?
Good question. Regular cleaning is key. Washing fabrics frequently, things like curtains, cushion covers, bedding. Wiping down hard surfaces thoroughly.
Does vacuuming help?
Yes, especially if you use a vacuum with a HEPA filter. That can help trap some of the fine particles. Using HEPA air purifiers can also make a difference in reducing airborne particles, including those from smoke residue.
Okay, so be proactive with cleaning and maybe air filtration.
And reinforce that rule. No smoking inside. And like we said, if someone does smoke outside, gently ask about changing clothes, washing hands before they come back in, especially around kids with asthma.
It's about remembering that even if you don't see smoke or smell it strongly, that harmful residue could still be present.
Exactly. It's insidious like that. We have a whole guide on the blog about this too, Tobacco-Free Homes for Children. It goes into more detail on creating that safe haven.
Great, we'll link to that as well. Now, what about outside the home? For adults with asthma, the workplace can sometimes be a challenge.
Yeah. Those designated smoking zones.
Right. Sometimes they're placed right near entrances or walkways.
And even just walking past quickly, you can get a lungful of drifting smoke. That can definitely be enough to trigger asthma symptoms for some people.
So if you're facing that at work, what can you do?
Well, first step is probably to identify where the problem is happening. Where are you getting exposed to that drifting smoke?
Okay, pinpoint the issue. Then what?
Then it might be worth talking to your HR department or your manager. Find out what the company policy is on smoking areas.
And explain the health impact.
Yes, explain how it's affecting your respiratory health, your asthma. You could advocate for maybe moving the smoking zone further away, further from entrances, walkways, and also away from any air intake vents for the building's ventilation system.
That makes sense. It's about asking for a reasonable adjustment.
Exactly. You generally have a right to a reasonably healthy and safe work environment. Our blog post, Workplace Smoking Zones and Drifting Smoke, has some more detailed advice on navigating this specific issue.
Good to know there are resources for that, too.
Yeah.
So, wrapping this all up, it really boils down to protecting yourself, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Protecting yourself, protecting your loved ones, especially children, from both passive smoke and this sneakier third-hand smoke. It's just essential for managing asthma well.
And always remember, you absolutely have the right to breathe clean air. It's fundamental to your health.
It really is.
And, your experiences matter so much to us here at Asthma Friend. If you've dealt with challenges around passive smoke or third-hand smoke and your asthma.
Or if you found really good ways to create a smoke-free space in your life, maybe tips for setting boundaries that worked well for you.
We genuinely want to hear about it. Please visit asthmafriend.com/community and share your story.
Your insights, your solutions, they could be incredibly helpful and inspiring for someone else in our community who's facing the same thing.
You can also leave comments on our posts or connect with us on social media. We're at Asthma Friend. Use the hashtags #AsthmaFriend and #NotMyCigarette. Let's keep the conversation going. And make sure you tune in next week. It's timed with World No Tobacco Day, and we'll be tackling a really important, maybe difficult topic: the risks for asthmatics who smoke themselves.
Yeah, that's a crucial one. Don't miss when you light up with asthma, the risks of smoking for patients themselves.
It's going to be an important discussion. Thanks for joining us on Asthma Friend.
Breathe easy, everyone.